Hello and welcome back everyone. As some of you know, I'm now finished with the main storyline in Shadowbringers and I'm currently going through early Endwalker, but during my time in the Shadowbringers expansion, I ended up changing a couple of ways that I make gil. I posted a video last year going over my favorite ways to make gil at that time when I was post-Stormblood, and I feel like the ways you can make gil will change with every expansion that you go through, and every expansion will unlock a new way to make gil, such as the Doman Enclave at the end of Stormblood. So I thought I'd make an updated video going over my new favorite ways that I've been making gil during and after Shadowbringers. As you can see, I now have over 15 million gil from doing these things, and it's been going up quite quickly, making a couple 100,000 gil a day at least. Doing an updated video like this after the rest of the expansions is something I'll likely be doing, so if it's something you want to see or you're looking for some ways to get your gil up, then make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. In my last gil video, I was just getting around to doing custom deliveries. I didn't fully understand what to do at that point, but it's something I've been doing every week since. Not just for the gil, but also because it gives you a heap of XP as well. Every week, you get 12 custom delivery allowances. I'm currently in Idleshire doing the deliveries here, but you can access these through the game as you progress. But all you do is come up to whoever you're making the deliveries with and click where it says to make a delivery. The NPC will then want you to collect or craft these certain items. You can either do one of each item, or you can collect or craft 3 of the same item. The higher the collectability, the more gil you will make from it. Sometimes an item will give you a bonus too if you turn that in, and you'll know if an item has that bonus on it because you'll see it written right here. The custom deliveries are a great way to make a bit of gil and also get your XP up as well if you're looking to level up your crafters and your gatherers quite quickly. The Doman Enclave is something that you'll get access to during the Stormblood expansion. Your Warrior of Light will be helping out with the Enclave's restoration, and you're able to make donations to do that. When you come here and click to make a donation at the Enclave, this right here will pop up and you'll be able to donate any items that you don't want, such as gear, Aaaand pieces, or materials that you picked up that you don't need. Once you unlock the Enclave, if I remember correctly, you'll start with a 20,000 gil weekly budget in your basket. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that starting number because it's been a while since I unlocked the Enclave, and my memory is terrible. But once you've eventually finished with the Enclave's restoration, it'll jump up to 40,000 a week that you can make from the donations basket's weekly budget. That is a very hard thing to say, and I don't want to do that again. As you can see at the top here, it says that there's a 200% rate, which means when I put in, let's say, an Aaaand piece in here to donate, which I would normally get 500 gil from if I were to sell it to an NPC, it will give me 1,000 gil instead. I like to sell my Aaaand pieces here as you get double for what you'd get from an NPC, so I always make sure to send out my retainers on the 18-hour venture a couple of times a week, so I have some Aaaand pieces to sell when the weekly reset hits on Tuesday. You can also get Aaaand pieces as rewards from certain quests, so you could pick them up from doing that too and also sell it here if you wanted to. A newer way that I've started to make gil recently is by crafting the most sport dyes. I know this might be an older method of making gil, and I guess it does depend on what server you're on and if players are buying dyes frequently enough for you to make anything from it. But I was surprised at how much I was making from doing this. I went to the market board and did a little looking around to see which dyes players are buying frequently and crafted my own. I sent out my retainers to get some of the pigments needed, and then I just go AFK for 5 or so minutes crafting dyes. I sell these in stacks of 10 for between 2,900 gil to 4,900 gil. This of course changes for every server as to what players are buying most and how much they're going for. But as you can see here, this is only some of the gil made since I started doing this over the last few weeks, and it's stayed pretty consistent, so as long as it's consistent and making me some nice gil, then I'll keep doing it. You can acquire treasure maps once a day with your miner or botanist, and I do either one or two things when it comes to treasure maps and making gil. One being selling the treasure map on the market board, which I mentioned in my last gil making video, and that would get me anywhere between 35k to 70k gil per day from a single treasure map. Or two, actually deciphering the map and selling what I get from completing it on the market board, depending on what items they are and how much they are currently going for on my server. You also do get a bit of gil as a reward for completing treasure maps too, but either way, every day I do one of these things regarding treasure maps and get a decent amount of gil from doing it. Besides sending my retainers out to gather pigments needed for me to craft dyes, I also send my retainers out to gather raw materials. I touched on this in my other gil video, and to be honest, the only real difference between these two videos is the fact that I now use my retainers to get the mats instead of going out and gathering the mats myself. I never really invested time into my retainers or really understood what they're able to do until after I made that video, but as I said in that video, I'll gather the raw materials either used to make furniture or that are needed for job quests, and then sell them in stacks of that exact quantity quantity needed for that said item. If I'm trying to sell items needed for job quests, then I'll come over to this website here, which is a really helpful website, so I'll leave a link in the description for anyone that wants to check it out. Have a look through at how many I'll need in a stack to sell, and then send out my retainer to gather it. Then, of course, put it up on the market board. This is probably more efficient during the later game with rarer materials and whatnot, but it still brings in some gil whenever I decide to do this. Of course, it wouldn't be a Final Fantasy XIV video without mentioning daily roulettes. In one of my earlier videos, I talked about how I was a little nervous going into certain roulettes like leveling and high-level dungeons because I had only really just got back into playing this game around that time of the video, and there were dungeons and raids that I had forgotten how to do during my time away from Final Fantasy XIV. Well, good news, I do them all now and I'm no longer nervous, but yeah, I join the roulettes every day, making sure that I'm playing whatever role gives the adventurer a need bonus, so I'm maximizing the amount of gil that I get. Of course, the gil you get, like the XP, depends on what level you are with whatever job you're loading into the roulette with, so I can't give you a specific amount that I make daily from doing roulettes, but either way, it all adds up, so I definitely recommend doing your roulettes so you can make as much gil as possible every day. I don't know about anyone else, but I love doing hunts and basically being a bounty hunter in this game. I usually do them when I'm waiting for the DPS queue to pop, but I do these not just to make a little bit of gil, but because you can exchange the currency that you get for completing these hunt bills for Aetheryte tickets, which in turn saves you some gil when it comes to teleporting. You can pick these bills up from your Grand Company, or you'll just find them scattered around the world in major cities, but if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you do have to be a second lieutenant in your Grand Company to be able to access the hunt board. Regular bills are posted every day, and you also have elite bills which you can collect every week for you to hunt down a single monster, which will reward you with 5,000 gil. Like I said, doing these hunts will also reward you with different currencies, which can then be exchanged for Aetheryte tickets. So I will always recommend doing them anyway, because you will eventually save a lot from using tickets instead of your gil during teleporting. If you want to start using Aetheryte tickets, come over to your teleport and click the cog on the corner, and you can set an allowance. I have it set so if I want to teleport somewhere which costs me more than 450 gil, it will use an Aetheryte ticket instead. I feel like I mention the challenge log in every video like this that I make, but that's only because it's one of the main things that I like to make sure that I do and complete every single week. If your goal is to have a lot of gil, gain XP quickly, or if you're just saving up your gold source at MGP, then doing your challenge log every week is a must. The challenge log rewards you with a lot of gil every week, especially if you're completing the 30 challenges. The society quest, for example, rewards you with gil, and those are something I like to do while I'm in the queue waiting for a dungeon or a raid. There are other things within the log that you can do in between doing other things as well, like I mentioned, while in queue, or if you just want to take a break from questing. The challenge log, like most of the other things in this video, resets every Tuesday, so make sure that if you are making the log one of your priorities in the game, that you finish up any challenges before the weekly reset so you don't miss out on getting that extra gil. Another way that I make gil, which is kind of the last way that I make gil because it's something I would do once I've done everything else in this video, and maybe I'm bored and don't have the energy to do everything else, is exchanging my Grand Company seals for materials. Materials such as duck bones or camel hair because they sell for 360 gil each, and I would sell them to an NPC or even donate them at the Doman Enclave for double what I'd get from an NPC. I have a Grand Company seal cap of 90,000, so let me try my best to do some math here. If I were to exchange all of my 90,000 seals for, let's say, duck bones, I'd get 150 duck bones since there's 600 seals each to buy. Let's times 150 by 360 because they're 360 gil each, and that gives me 54,000. But yeah, I like to think of this as a lazy way of making gil, doing my daily Grand Company turn-ins, turning in gear I don't want for seals, and then using them to buy mats to sell to an NPC. This is not the most efficient way either, which is why it's like my last resort, but there we go. Bonus thing that I want to quickly add is if you complete your Wondrous Tales every week, you have the choice to pick an Aaaand piece as a reward, which sells for 10,000 gil, or you can get more for it if you were to sell it at the Doman Enclave. I haven't been able to complete a Wondrous Tales in a while now because it keeps giving me Endwalker and Dawn Trail content, which, as someone who is at the beginning of Endwalker, I obviously can't do these things yet, but yeah, I thought it was worth to mention in the video. So that's it for today's video. I'm sure as I progress with the story that I will find other means to make gil, but like I mentioned at the start, I'll likely make make more of these videos after every expansion to update you all on the different ways that I'm making Gil. But hopefully this video gave you all some ideas if you were looking to change it up a bit, or if you're tired of grinding a certain thing to make Gil and whatnot. And I hope you all enjoyed this video as well. I quickly just want to say before the end of the video, thank you so very much for almost 1,000 subscribers now. As I said countless times in the community posts over the last month, I was moving house with my girlfriend and it was so chaotic because we only found out that we got the house that we wanted 3 days before we moved in. So it's been a chaotic month. I didn't have any internet for weeks. The only time that I could play Final Fantasy XIV was when I went back to the old house, and that was only for a few hours every other day or so. I haven't been able to make any videos, so I just wanted to say thank you for watching the videos while I was away. Thank you for continuing to subscribe, and thank you for being patient. We're all settled in now. I have the time, I have the space to make videos and get back into everything, and I'm really excited to see what happens with the rest of the year. So as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.